At the end of the day, we are executive benefit consultants because that drives the need and utilization for the corporate-owned life insurance. So really, in that scenario, we are engaging a company not on life insurance, but on the executive benefits themselves. So we're talking about recruiting, retaining, rewarding key talent. We're really coming across as like a holistic compensation consultant. Once we establish the need for that plan and we're building that plan for them, what is that plan going to create? Long-term obligations. And that's where the insurance comes into play.
Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast for financial professionals, bringing you life insurance insights from advanced sales experts and life insurance specialists. Grow a stronger practice today.
Welcome to the latest episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. I'm your host, Bill Bell, Vice President of Advanced Sales with Penn Mutual, and I am so pleased that you chose to join us here today. Now, for those of you that have known me for a long time, you know that I love the business marketplace, whether it's buy-sell planning, retirement planning, estate planning for business owners. There are so many great opportunities when working in that business marketplace. And one of those opportunities is MultiLife sales. And when I say MultiLife sales, I mean guaranteed issue and simplified issue sales for life insurance that's going to be used in executive benefit strategies, whether it's corporate-owned life insurance, corporate-sponsored arrangements. Bottom line is that MultiLife is a great marketplace for the sale of life insurance in that business marketplace. And luckily for me, the powers that be at Penn Mutual agree, and we have a new MultiLife platform that's going to be launching here within the next couple of weeks. We're really excited about it. It's called AMP. So because we are going to be launching AMP here very shortly, we decided to dedicate this episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast, to MultiLife. So we actually have three guests today. We have Justin Gladieux and Michael Ori, who are two of the founders of Institutional Architects, to share what's going on in the marketplace, what they're seeing out there. They are a firm that really specializes in these MultiLife sales, so a great source of information. Two guys that I've known for a long time, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from them. And then we have Jennifer Ortale, who is the Vice President of MultiLife Operations, on to talk all about AMP and how Penn Mutual is entering this market in a big way. So we're going to get to those interviews in just a second here, but first, I have an announcement. Now, I know everybody that is listening to this podcast loves the Accelerated Client Experience, also known as ACE, which is the best-in-class electronic submission platform that Penn Mutual makes available to financial professionals. But did you know that ACE is getting a refresh? And there's going to be an opportunity for you to learn more about the refreshed ACE here over the next couple of weeks. Between September 2nd and September 14th, we are going to have a soft launch of the refreshed ACE platform so you can check it out. On September 8th, we are going to have a special 1-hour training day all about the ACE refresh so you can learn all of the ins and outs about the refreshed platform. And then finally, on September 15th, we will have the official launch of the refreshed ACE platform. We are so excited about the refreshed ACE. If you need more information, please reach out to your Penn Mutual representative. I'm sure that they will be more than happy to share additional information in regards to these events and the platform itself. So with that, let's get to the interview that I did with Justin and Michael. All right, it is my esteemed honor to welcome Michael Ori and Justin Gladieux to this episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. Guys, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here, Bill. Happy to do it.
All right, terrific. So we're going to first go into a little bit about your backgrounds, because not everybody that's listening or watching on the Penn Mutual YouTube channel knows who you guys are. They should, but they might not. Michael, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do as a firm.
I'm happy that I get to go first because I think Justin's going to have a very similar answer to my background. With a couple caveats, My whole career has been spent not just in the insurance space, but in the corporate space in particular. Right out of college, I joined a national, Coley executive benefits firm where I spent the first 10 years of my career, designing executive benefit plans, administering executive benefit plans, and then ultimately funding those plans with institutional life insurance. That was where I got actually introduced to Justin, who was already at Nationwide. I then left that firm, joined Justin for a bit at Nationwide, really learned distribution on the wholesaling front, and then put it all together at Lion Street, where I sat on the corporate and business solutions team, supporting all 200 firms on any opportunity they have that's in the corporate space. And did that for 4 years until back in September, rolled out and formally launched Institutional Architects with Justin and our third partner, Jake Basaki. And really, nothing's changed. Really, just it's our company versus, the prior stops we had before. The focus remains all things corporate oriented, executive benefits being a big piece of that, but doing more than just that. But I'll stop there and let Justin kind of share his thoughts as well.
All right, Justin, do you want to just say ditto or do you want to add some additional context?
Slightly different. So, same as Michael, I've spent the duration of my career in the insurance space, specifically in the Coley sector. I started at Nationwide in March of '08, and I did a few things. I was in the operations team. So, we would do post-issue administration for in-force Coley iColey plans. I worked with Newport, NFP, IIG, M Benefits, all the big boys in the country that were doing these large transactions. So really cut my teeth and really understood why Coley is used to fund these liabilities or, be an asset on the balance sheet. Did internal sales, product development, moved into the external wholesaling role. And that was where I really got to know all the distribution points. I called on all the banks, all the wires, all the BGAs, and all the producer groups. So that lent me to my relationship with Lion Street. Got to know David Herrig very well because I was living in Atlanta, covering the Southeast, again, how I met Michael. And then I saw the need for an executive benefits team and really a larger distribution at Lion Street, sat down with Bob, sketched it out, and ultimately came to the conclusion that there was a huge demand and huge opportunity at Lion Street to form that team. We had a great 5-year run. It was a lot of fun, really got to understand all the products and everything that we could do in the space. All those years at Nationwide, it was a lot of no to things, unfortunately. There was a lot of plan designs that we really liked or I really liked that we couldn't fund just because we didn't have index products. We couldn't do multi-life financing. It was all the other stuff that was on the periphery that really pushed me to go do something else where I could have access to everybody. And then here we are. September last year, we started IA. It's been great. We consider ourselves a national platform. We work with firms all across the country. We support all the plan designs. We support all the products. So it's been nice to be able to go out there and really shape and create our own, ideas and subset collateral and go out and work with other firms. So best thing we ever did. Good timing was right, and I'm glad we did it when we did it, but it's been fun to be here.
All right, terrific. Now, Justin, you and Michael both used a few acronyms in there, and some of our listeners just are not super familiar with this space, so I want to provide some clarity. You use the acronym COLI, that's corporate-owned life insurance. You use the acronym BOLI, that's bank-owned life insurance. And you use the acronym iColey, which is insurance company-owned life insurance. But they're all essentially a subset of the overall topic, which we're going to talk about here today, which is multi-life sales, where you are talking about a group of life insurance policies sold to one potential borrower, or a group of life insurance policies that are sold to one company or sponsored by one company. For those of our listeners that have never done a multi-life case before, what does that mean? And how is it different than your traditional kind of everyday life insurance sale?
Sure. So really, when you think about corporate-owned life insurance, it's exactly what it sounds. It's a corporation owning life insurance on its key people, executives, a deemed group of employees. And it's really used in a number of facets. It could be used to fund a long-tail executive benefit program like deferred compensation. It could be used to offset stock redemption if you're a law firm or you have a number of equity partners. And the nuances are the same. It has the same tax treatment, has the same death benefit treatment. So ultimately what we're doing is, instead of it being owned by an individual consumer, the company is owning it on the balance sheet of the company, so it becomes a corporate asset. And traditionally, corporate-owned life insurance has been used in an institutional manner, meaning we had a product that had a high surrender value, day one, dollar one, so there was no negative P&L impact. We take $1 of cash, we turn it into $1 plus of cash surrender value. We're taking that trade on balance sheet. And now we have a large group of employees that are covered in that group that the company owns that policy and is the beneficiary of those residual death benefits. The biggest delineation, I think, in the corporate-owned life insurance space compared to the individual consumer space is the bulk of the designs that we deal with and the most, I'd say the most prevalent form of the insurance that is bought today is done on a guaranteed issue basis. So there's no medical underwriting that's involved. The company can buy insurance on their key people without having them commit to a medical examination, blood and urine profile, and the like. So we take out the stigma of life insurance in that traditional acquisition process. We make it much cleaner and much simpler. So that lends to large publicly tradeds and banks having tranches of hundreds, if not thousands, of life insurance policies on their balance sheet in the form of corporate-owned life insurance, bank-owned life insurance, or insurance company-owned life insurance.
That means that if you're working with a business that wants to buy a block of policies on their key executives, and let's say they have 500 executives that they want to cover, guaranteed issue means that basically you're able to do insurance on all 500 people at one time without making them sit for medical exams and the traditional underwriting you see with traditional life insurance underwriting. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. The one stipulation is they do have to consent their life to the business. So they do have to sign off on the fact that they are letting their employer buy a life insurance policy on them. And that consent form is typically 3 questions. Are you actively at work? Are you a U.S. citizen? And in the last 90 days, have you missed 4 or more days for injury or illness? So if someone is actively at work and they're willing to consent their life, answer those questions, then the company can buy a life insurance policy on them on their behalf.
Very good. Michael, why did your firm decide to focus on multi-life planning? Is it really just because of the background of you and Justin? Is it because you saw additional opportunity out there? Was there a void in the marketplace that's not being filled? Why is IA focused on that space?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all the above, right? Absolutely, all 3 of the managing partners and co-founders of Institutional Architects have spent their career in the multi-life corporate arena. So naturally, you're going to do what you know. But from a timing perspective of why now, that I think more aligns with the excitement we have for the industry as a whole. Corporate cases can be complicated. At the end of the day, in your example, Bill, you mentioned 500 executives being insured. A company doesn't want to buy life insurance on their 500 executives. There needs to be a reason for the usage of insurance. Funding executive benefit plans is just an example of a purpose for utilizing corporate-owned life insurance. And we feel that those reasons, those plan designs, those strategies that drive corporate sales are abundant and underutilized. And there's a lot of excess capacity out there for companies that have not been approached yet on those types of subjects. And so we're very bullish on the market as a whole. And it was that really made us feel comfortable to kind of hit the go button and formally launch.
Well, obviously at Penn Mutual, we see a real future in multi-life sales. We'll get into that a little bit more later on in the interview here. But I wanted to ask both of you, and I'll start with you, Michael, what the interplay is between executive benefits planning and life insurance. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've had this call from a financial professional where they call me up and say, hey, Bill, I've got this client and I sold them one of those SERP things. And I have to stop them and say, well, no, you didn't sell them a SERP. You sold them a life insurance policy that's there to informally fund a SERP, or you utilize an executive bonus to pay the premiums for a personally owned life insurance policy, or whatever it may be. How do you kind of strike that balance where you are selling the individuals on the executive benefits, the SERP and so forth, what they're really going to be getting, where at the same time you're selling the business on the life insurance and kind of the benefits associated with that? How do you strike that balance?
I think the devil's in the details on our name, right? We're institutional architects. There's no life insurance name in words in that name. We're not mentioning multi-life or anything like that. we want to come across as consultants on that executive benefit plan. Bill, you used an acronym, so I'm going to define that now. That's SERP, stands for Supplemental Executive Retirement Plan, which is a common name for the types of executive benefit plans that we work with. At the end of the day, we are executive benefit consultants because that drives the need and utilization for the corporate owned life insurance. So really, in that scenario, we are engaging a company not on life insurance, but on the executive benefits themselves. So we're talking about recruiting, retaining, rewarding key talent. We're really coming across as like a holistic compensation consultant. Once we establish the need for that plan and we're building that plan for them, what is that plan going to create? Long-term obligations. And that's where the insurance comes into play. Insurance as an asset class for companies is best utilized when offsetting, hedging, funding long-term outlays, obligations in the future. And so setting up that SERP creates the long-term obligation, which then tees up the corporate owned life insurance conversation. So there's kind of an order of operations to it all. And you lead with the strategy that has nothing to do with insurance, but then establishes the reason why insurance enters the picture.
And then Justin, kind of a follow-up question there. Michael made some reference to this, but I just really want to drive this point home. When you've got a company that's going to establish one of these executive benefits plans, they absolutely don't have to informally fund it with life insurance. And I'm being very careful with my words there. Informally funded is an important word choice there. I actually once worked on a SERP case where they ultimately decided to informally fund with a soybean farm that was going to be owned by the business. But why does life insurance make sense to informally fund these plans? And when I say informally fund, can you tell the listeners a little bit what that means?
Yeah, the world we live in is governed traditionally by 409A, right? The bulk of our plans in the executive benefit universe fall into that 409A spectrum. But then I would also say, if you look at things like stock redemption programs for large law firms or large professional service firms, what you're doing is, like Michael said, you're creating a liability, right? And you have to think about, okay, the life cycle of this liability is going to live through economic cycles. It's going to live through changes in the company. So a liability that's established now, 10 years from now, the company may look, inherently different as to how they think about that liability or if they're funding for that liability. So it's really do three things. Don't fund it and ultimately pay as you go or pay when liabilities come due, which we don't think is a prudent strategy, right? You're putting a liability in place. You're making a promise to someone in the future. You have no dollars allocated today. So ultimately, you're just hoping it's there. It's almost, it's like a Ponzi scheme like structure. We say Social Security a lot when we're talking to our clients about, hey, you need to do something to ultimately offset this liability. You could fund it with taxable investments, which tends to be, at least a suitable manner. It's not the most efficient from a tax perspective or P&L impact. So if we can get them to commit to funding, then we can ultimately pivot to, well, if you're going to fund with taxable investments, why not consider an institutionally priced COLI chassis that's going to offer you that tax efficiency? It's going to offer you the cost recovery. It's going to offer you the optionality to go in and take distributions from that product. So really, when it comes down to it, Bill, it's how do you want to fund? If you do want to fund, here's the difference between taxable investments and insurance. And 99% of the time, the insurance is going to win long term, right? In a nonprofit world, obviously it doesn't make sense. But if we're paying taxes, the COLI is going to win, right? And that's where we come in. And at the end of that dialogue, when we've sold the liability, we've sold the executive benefit plan, we've created a solution to their problem, we show them that that's the prudent funding strategy. And any sophisticated CFO is going to look at that and say, I don't love life insurance, but I can't compete against it. The math wins. So if we look at that, Bill, it's been validated over the years in the fact that banks own billions of dollars, corporations own billions of dollars of corporate-owned life insurance. So, it's not a new concept. This is tried and true. We're just taking that and we're carrying it forward with this new product spectrum, much better offering, much better optionality. And, we truly feel that the landscape is the most broad it's ever been. The optionality for the clients is the best it's ever been. So we're in a really good position ultimately to sell COLI and make it make sense compared to the alternatives.
Who are good candidates for multi-life sales? Is it large companies, small companies, mid-sized companies? Does it really just depend on the situation? Is it case by case? Where do you generally see multi-life sales make sense?
It's all the above again, with the caveat being, at a certain small size of company, you just don't have enough employees to really qualify for multi-life. But at the end of the day, I think it's helpful first to understand some of the parameters we're looking for that would constitute a guaranteed issue eligible case. Typically, you need at least 10 insureds. And we always get asked, how many lives do you need to get GI? And our answer is 10 lives opens the door. Right? At the end of the day, the actual number of insureds you need is predicated on the size of the case, as measured by premium, and as a function of that, the death benefit per person. The more insureds you have, the more death benefit capacity you have per person, and thus the greater level of corresponding premium capacity. So the simple answer, Bill, is a sizable enough company that's going to have enough employees that can generate a GI opportunity. But there are some specific industries in particular to be on the lookout for. The traditional Coley-Boley space has been large C corps, publicly traded, very large privately held companies, obviously banks for bank-owned life insurance as well. But over the past 10 or so years, we've really seen an expansion of who would be eligible more so down into the private sector space. Now we're seeing, Justin mentioned before, professional service organizations like law firms, accounting firms, engineering firms, insurance brokerages is one that we see a lot of, hospital systems, multi-generational family-owned companies. So again, there's lots of companies out there that don't fit the traditional style box of like a publicly traded C Corp that still are a great fit. At the end of the day, you're looking for two things: enough employees to qualify for GI, and some sort of need that fits that insurance or problem that insurance solves. And that can be executive benefits, equity buyouts, things like that. I'm sure we're going to discuss it more.
In fact, we see that quite frequently, that multi-life is going to be used in those professional organizations, whether they're law firms, accounting firms, architectural firms, whatever it may be. Justin, where does multi-life come into place in those types of organizations? Is it executive benefits planning? Is it buyouts for the individual partners? Is it being used in other ways? And also, one thing that we haven't really talked about yet is the death benefit protection of the life insurance, because obviously when we think about multi-life, a lot of times we're talking about kind of the offsetting the liabilities and the tax benefits associated with the cash value. But where does the death benefit of the life insurance come into play in a multi-life sale, in addition to kind of that question in regards to the professional organizations?
We've spent a significant amount of time building out collateral and focusing on this area. And candidly, we think it's like one of the biggest opportunities and frontiers in the multi-life space right now, because banks are saturated. Publicly traded companies have heard it. They bought it. Insurance companies is a much niche market that's being targeted heavily. For whatever reason, these large professional service corporations, specifically law firms, have really done nothing to fund their long-term obligations to redeem the shares of their equity partners. So it's created this kind of vicious life cycle bill for these companies where if I'm a partner of a law firm and I'm buying into the practice and I'm buying in really to buy out the departing 70-year-old partner, my dollar goes in, it goes right out the door. I'm looking at the life cycle of this company saying, okay, well, I'm helping him retire, but who's going to help me retire? So one of the things we've been looking at is if we buy life insurance on the entire partnership pool, that gives validation to those incoming partners that there will be long-term cost recovery and there will be funding associated with that liability that helps perpetuate that program for a longer duration, right? So it's really kind of backstopping the long tail liability. And it doesn't necessarily have to be overfunded, max funded 7-pay. That's a cash accumulation vehicle, which is typically associated with those executive benefit plans because they want an asset on balance sheet. We've done a number that are death benefit oriented sales. So it's an all pay structure. It's a minimally funded design where it really is about acquiring that death benefit for cost recovery for more of a key man need. So we really like that sale. In that same vein, we've done ancillary executive benefit programs for those law firms that are for the non-equity partners. So we're doing a small bonus plan for a CEO and a CFO of a law firm right now. We've looked at cash balance plans as a program to add into those professional service corporations that we can carve out that group. So it really comes down to the dynamics of, what is this company trying to do? What are they trying to do it for? Do we have budgetary constraints? If they're flowing all the cash out on an annual basis, overfunded COLI doesn't make sense. So it's having the ability to kind of retool our conversation based upon what they're trying to accomplish. And that's where we pride ourselves on. Our mantra is consult, design, implement, right? We want to consult on the front end. We want to design a menu of solutions, and then we're going to implement the one that makes sense. 9 times out of 10, we don't talk about life insurance till the third or fourth meeting. But again, it has its place, and it really has its place everywhere. It just depends on the buyer.
To add to that, Bill, one thing in particular about what Penn is doing that we're bullish on as it relates to those professional service organizations is the utilization of your indexed universal life product within your MultiLife platform. Traditionally, MultiLife products have been entirely variable. They're a great fit in a number of corporate-based scenarios, but utilizing the law firm buyout, example that we've been kind of talking about, if the market takes a 20% drop, the buyout basically remains the same. Maybe their revenues drop a little bit. Maybe there's a slight dip in the buyout value, but it's certainly not going to be correlated directly to the market. And so the law firm or whoever is taking all the investment risk with their corporate owned life insurance. And so not only are we actively working with a lot of law firms, and we're very bullish on that space, but utilizing IUL in particular because of that downside protection that it provides and kind of that downside volatility mitigation that better aligns with what those long-term obligations look like.
You teed me up for my next question perfectly here, and I'll start with you, Justin, on this one. I made reference to this earlier, that Penn Mutual certainly sees growth in the MultiLife area, and in fact, so much so that we actually have a new MultiLife platform that's going to be launching later this year, which we call AMP, which is an acronym for Accelerated MultiLife Platform. I know that you guys have kind of been helping to provide some guidance as we've been building this out. From an outsider's perspective, outside of the utilization of the index product that Michael talked about earlier, what makes you excited about what you've seen from AMP?
Yeah, so quite a few things actually. One, we're big fans of ACE, what you have today on the retail side. We run a lot of business through that. So knowing that you guys have a digital-based platform, kind of a full intake process start to finish, is unlike anything else that exists in the COLI universe today. Sure, there's ways to do digital applications, but the way that you guys have built ACE is, pretty unique and pretty fascinating, candidly. So I think that's a big thing, being able to have access to something like that to really create ease of adoption and ease of implementation. So, overall, we like the product, we like the pricing, we love the intake process. So, from our perspective, we think you're gonna knock it out of the park, assuming all goes well in the launch.
And Michael, we're going to have Jennifer Ortale on after you guys to talk a little bit more detail about AMP. But is it important that AMP is a fully electronic system and that you're not going to have to deal with paper, and that we're kind of taking that ACE experience that people love and apply it to that MultiLife universe?
It is. That's just the world that we live in now, Bill. Our clients expect it. We expect it. It's how we're able to get the 12 different things done at the same time. And so having a carrier that's launching a platform that's built around that versus maybe trying to retrofit is very exciting for us. And I think that we're going to see a user experience that is, world-class and kind of unique. So it's kind of, I don't know what I don't know because I haven't fully experienced one yet, but we are very bullish on that platform. And I want to emphasize that word platform. Jennifer and her team have done a great job of working with us and others as well on identifying all the different items that will be needed to truly build a MultiLife platform. A MultiLife product is just something that can be sold to multiple people. That is not what we're looking for, right? We want a full service platform that can deliver on design, implementation, as well as ongoing administration. And we've been seeing nothing but great things from your team on all of those fronts.
All right, terrific. I'm really excited about it. I know that a number of other people within management are excited about it. I've seen some previews. It looks like it's going to be spectacular. So for our listeners out there, our viewers on YouTube, stay tuned. A lot more information coming on AMP, and definitely stick on to the end of this podcast so that you can hear directly from Jennifer Ortale to hear about what they've been building. All right, last kind of business related question. And I'll start with you, Justin, on this. I want to come kind of full circle back to the beginning of what we started talking about. You have a career that what you were with a carrier, then you were with a distribution company, and now you are a firm owner, you're a financial professional yourself. How does that kind of shape your worldview of the life insurance industry and multi-life specifically versus somebody that may not have that broad experience like you do? And then Michael, same question for you.
We've been very fortunate that, between myself, Michael, and Jake, we have different walks of life and different backgrounds, and it's been very helpful in shaping our firm because depending on, what we're trying to accomplish and what we need to build, buy, or make, we really understand the entire process of manufacturing, distribution, production, ongoing service, and the like. So I think it has set me up extremely well, to be in the seat that I'm at. And I'm very fortunate that I've had that career path as a result. And another thing, with, kind of in that same vein is we're in a very niche market, right? There's a lot of life insurance producers out there. There's a small handful of really, really good individual producers, which we all know, Bill. And then there's an even smaller subset of COLI guys. And a lot of those, traditional COLI guys are starting to age out and are starting to see aggregation. And we're one of the only new independent firms that I can think of in the last probably 10 years that has come into this space. So I think, my background has set us up extremely well to be in the position that we're in.
And from my perspective, really two things come to mind. First, we've said a lot of acronyms. We love our acronyms in this industry, but especially in the corporate space. And so we need to be the technical expert in what we're talking about. We are doing a lot of joint work. We are being brought in by an advisor that has great relationships. And it's our job to know everything that there is to possibly know, not just about the corporate owned life insurance. That's kind of ancillary, more so the SERPs, the buyouts, the whatevers, the plan designs that ultimately drive that insurance. So it's really a focus on technical expertise. And then the beginning of my career at that consulting firm really has caused me to focus on service. There is such a long tail administrative component to these sales, which we see as a great thing, right? This is not a transaction. This is an ongoing client relationship. But you need to have, just like Penn's building the platform for MultiLife, we need to have the platform to support every single case that we place. So there's a really strong emphasis on ongoing administration and not just getting the sale done.
That sounds very much within the ethos of Penn Mutual there. We always plan for the long term. It sounds like you guys are as well. All right. We like to end these podcasts with a couple of fun questions. And we're a very positive podcast, a lot of negativity out there. We like to end with some positive stuff. So I'll start with you, Justin. What is one thing that people may not know about Michael Orry, or one positive thing that you would have to say about him?
He's a world-class connoisseur when it comes to esoteric, like off-the-wall cuisine. The guy knows all the best spots in New York. And I'll say that because my wife, I love her to death, but she's basically a child when it comes to her diet. She's very plain, very simple. So Michael's been my date for the last 8 years since we've really known each other. So every time we go somewhere, I'll pick on him to pick a restaurant. I say, I want the most exotic stuff you can find. Let's eat some cow tongue, duck liver, whatever it is. And he's the best at tracking that down. And he's a great dinner date. So, he's become obviously one of my best friends and my partner as a result. So I'd lend that to him. He's really good at finding the hole in the wall that's got the best stuff in any city we're going to.
Michael, it sounds like you might be a good guest on Bites, Sites, and Life Insurance Insights, currently available on the Penn Mutual YouTube channel. So
why eat a bad meal? We have too limited time in our lives. Like, why eat bad meals? That's what, that's what the weekdays are for.
It's always been my philosophy. All right. Now you get to do the same thing, Mike. What is one thing that somebody might not know or something really positive about Justin?
It's kind of, I want to break into two different things. I'll do the not know and then the positive separate. So the not know is that Justin is a collegiate athlete and he's become the bionic man because of that athletic career. So I think at this point he might be working on full robotic shoulders and hips. So it's not even fair anymore to call him a human. I think he's kind of more of like the cyborg.
Cyborg?
But
Yeah,
yeah,
cyborg. Yeah.
but he had a very successful career in football before getting into the insurance space. So that would be the not know. And then, the positive attribute about Justin is he is the best individual I've ever met at forming long-term relationships. Every single person in the industry knows Justin Gladieux, and every person in the industry has a positive thing to say about Justin Gladieux. So the way he conducts himself and the way he builds relationships with others is something that I think all of us can learn from.
Go back to collegiate. People may not know Michael already played water polo at the club level in Florida too. So we got some athletes here, right?
I eat and I play water polo.
That gave me all the feels right there. So well done, guys. Last question. And Michael, I'll start with you and then we'll go to you, Justin. What's the best thing about fall and why is it the start of football season?
To me, it's the smell. You get that kind of burning leaves, that crisp air, and you just know that now football season has arrived. Obviously, you answered your own question with it being football season, but to me, it's how your body realizes that it's football season. And for me, it starts with the nose.
Well, you live in New York, though. So, I mean, that's for those of you that have not been to New York in the summer, New York's got a very distinct smell in between, say, June and August. Some might call it a trash smell.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
microwave trash, maybe?
Microwave, hot trash. Yeah.
Hot trash.
Hot trash. I love New York, but I mean, let's face it, you got 8 million people on the island of Manhattan, generates a lot of trash. And so.
But taking it back to football, I learned when I moved up here, football is played on Sundays. I went to the University of Florida. SEC football is everything I know. So when I hear about fall football, I still go back to Saturdays. So I am an outlier in my city as it relates to that.
Well, that's the great thing about football, though. You got Saturday, you got Sunday, you got Monday, you got Thursday, you got Friday for high school. Hell, if you're really desperate, you can watch the MAC on Tuesday night.
I was just going to say MAC. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's electric.
Exactly. All right, Justin, for you, what do you love about fall?
Yeah, so I'm a Toledo boy, born and raised, so I can appreciate the action on Tuesday night. But for me, it's kind of twofold. One is, I played football. I love football. My son is 7. He's going on his 3rd year of flag football. This is my 3rd year of coaching him. And that's just been the biggest joy in my life so far. I mean, being able to coach those kids and, in Columbus, it's obviously football is a religion here. And I live in Upper Arlington, which is very close to campus. And we get all the, former Ohio State players that live in Arlington. Brian Billick lives in Arlington, Super Bowl coach for the Ravens. So, there was a game last year where I was on the sideline coaching, and on the other sideline was Bobby Carpenter, who played in the league for a decade, Ohio State linebacker, coaching with Brian Billick. So here I am coaching against an NFL linebacker and a former Super Bowl winning coach, and our little flag team's running around, and we beat them. So it's the best, man. I love football because of, obviously the kids and the involvement in the team, but then being here in town, we get to tailgate, and it's just so much fun. We look forward to the fall here in Columbus.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I ask is this episode will come out right before Labor Day. So, I mean, we'll be on the precipice of fall. I mean, I think that we'll have already had week 0 of the college season at that point there. So I love football. As I'm representing the Rams here today. Love pro, love college. I know you guys did too. So I figured that was a good question to end. Michael, Justin, thank you so much for being our guests on Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. I got a lot out of the conversation. I'm sure our listeners did too. Thanks again for being
having us. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks again to Justin and Michael. 2 great guys, 2 wealths of information. I enjoyed the interview. I hope you did as well. Let's transition now to the interview that I did with Jennifer Ortale about all things AMP. When you hear from Jennifer, you're really going to know how and why Penn Mutual is really bolstering its offerings in the MultiLife segment. I think you're going to get a lot out of this as well. So let's go to that interview I did with Jennifer. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Life Matters, a Penn Mutual podcast. Such a pleasure to have you here today.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, so I introduced you by name, but that's all our audience knows about you. I'm sure that there's a number of people that are listening that have met you either in your past lives or in your time here at Penn Mutual, but tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Right. Right. So I have been with Penn Mutual almost a year. And that year was preceded by nearly 30 years of experience in executive benefits. So all things corporate owned life, corporate sponsored, BOLI, credit union, split dollar, et cetera. I really like strategy, product development, and really believe that the whole end to end process of implementing an executive benefit case should be easy and intuitive. So I was brought here to build that platform to make it easy and intuitive. So 30 years of experience. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of good things, a lot of hiccups, and just have had a great time working in the market. And a lot of friends are probably watching this as well. So hello to everybody.
Well, hello to all Jennifer's friends that are watching. Hopefully you're going to boost viewership by quite a bit here on our YouTube channel. So we just had Justin and Michael on. They are both super excited. I would say even fired up about AMP and what it's going to be doing for the MultiLife marketplace. First of all, what does AMP stand for and what is it and what will it do?
So I'm pretty fired up as well. AMP means Accelerated MultiLife Platform. And what we've done is we've built a digital, electronic, intuitive experience for the implementation of executive benefit plans or multi-life plans. So on the front end of AMP, you have LSI, our Life Illustrator. And on the back end, you have Insight, where you can see cash values, et cetera. So all three systems are rolling together for one very good experience.
So a fully integrated electronic experience. Would it be fair to say it is a paperless experience?
It's a paperless experience for multiple parties that are involved in a sale like this. So it's paperless for the participants who are enrolling via the AMP platform. It's paperless for financial professionals who can do a lot of things electronically case related. And it's also electronic for our policy owners, our corporate signers, those that need to fill out paperwork. That experience is electronic for all parties, which I think is a very unique proposition for this marketplace. Pretty excited about that.
I'm excited about it too. So on our first episode of Bites, Sites, and Life Insurance Insights, available on the Penn Mutual YouTube channel, my good friend Stephen Mitchell called ACE, Accelerated Customer Experience, kind of our electronic submission platform for traditional life insurance, our quote unquote rocket sauce. Would you say that AMP has kind of taken some of the things that people love about working with ACE and applied it to the multi-life space?
I mean, we're really known for ACE in the marketplace, and I think it's a tool that is intuitive, that's been improved over time. There's been a really great feedback loop between Penn development and the field, and AMP is much that same way. We took a lot of information from our experts in the field and applied it to the technology that we designed through AMP. But ACE was the platform that we really looked at and said, we've had success here. What does that success look like? And we replicated as much as we could from ACE into AMP.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the system. I think that for people that are in this space, they're going to love it. I think that the proof is going to be in the pudding when they have the first opportunity to work with the system. Who are those people that are good candidates to work within the kind of AMP system? Who are the people that you see being able to really utilize it? And what are the size cases that we are going to be able to consider with AMP? And are we really talking about kind of guaranteed issue, or is it both guaranteed issue and simplified issue? I know there's three questions there, but if you
right?
kind of knock them off, yeah.
Sure. So I'll take the last one first. AMP has been built to accommodate guaranteed issue and simplified issue enrollment, underwriting, and policy issue. So the appropriate audience, or the audience that I think is going to be most excited about this, yeah, are those that are experts in executive benefits multi-life. I think we're bringing a solution to you that you might have been waiting for. And that makes me happy. It makes me excited about the future. And I have had that feedback that we're on the right path. So very exciting time for the experts. I will say that one of the things that I really like about Penn Mutual and how we work with FPs is that those that don't have that expert level of expertise, there's still a place for you here. If you have a case that's COLI or corporate sponsored, and you haven't had a lot of experience writing a case like that, we have inside Penn so many resources. We have a new multi-life sales director starting soon, great resource for the field. We have the sales desk, those that support product and illustrations, so much knowledge coming out of that team, but also Bill, your team, advanced sales. I really think that we can work with those that aren't the super experts and help fill in some of the blanks. So when I think about AMP and who it's for, experts, but those that are upcoming experts too.
All right, let me see if I could summarize real fast there. Cases of anywhere from 10 to 2,500 lives. We're not going to talk about the multiples on this podcast, but for those people that are in this space, I will assure you that they are quite competitive. And then we've got lots of great resources to help people if they run into an opportunity and maybe they are not an expert in this marketplace. I mean, I think we all anticipate that a majority of the opportunities, at least initially, will probably come from firms that specialize in executive benefits. But you just never really know. An FP could be working with a business owner and they might say, hey, we're looking to do this executive benefit arrangement for our top 30 executives. Do you have any offerings? And we'll have resources to help at Penn Mutual with those types of cases and obviously the AMP platform. So it's kind of a nice, really well-rounded offering that we're providing to financial professionals.
I agree. And on the case size, I'll talk about what we're really looking for here. So a digital experience that's scalable from 10 to 2,500 lives, guaranteed issue or simplified issue, COLI, deferred comp, SERPs, corporate sponsored, individually owned, split dollar, 162 bonus, all of the reporting, all of the things that you need during the process of enrolling, communication, status updates. We've thought about all of that, planned for all of that. So I think it'll be a great experience for the experts or those that might need, some help from us.
All right, terrific. Now, speaking of resources, not only have you been here helping to put together AMP as a system, but we all know that service from a multi-life perspective is very different than service for individual life. And I know that one of the things you were also tasked with was putting together those service teams to help with these multi-life opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you've helped to put together from a service perspective?
Yes. So when I stand back and just look at the multi-life executive benefits market, I've seen the successes come from carriers having a dedicated team that's staffed with professionals who have deep knowledge in these topics that are related to new business, enrollment, servicing, etc. And we've done that as well. We are setting ourselves and our FPs up for success by offering a dedicated team. So today, there are 16 people that have joined Penn in the last year. We do have a couple people on the team that have been with us longer, which is great because we need that as well. That inside look at Penn has been very helpful as we build. But the 16 people are dedicated to this business line only. They are setting up the most appropriate and welcome aspects of the business, from reporting to the consent process, the licensing process, all of that is very much through a MultiLife lens only. So the average experience of people on this team is 22 years. And between the 16 of us, it's over 350 years of experience. So really deep roots in the executive benefit multi-life space. And I think that the language that we speak will perfectly mirror the language of our experts in the field.
Well, I haven't met everybody on the team, but I've met a good chunk of them. And yes, a very impressive group of people that really know this marketplace and know what we're building is kind of a special experience for financial professionals. All right, wrap up with a couple of questions here. So obviously, the first place that people should always turn to for more information on anything Penn Mutual is their Penn Mutual representative. But outside of that, where are some places that people can go to find out more information in regards to AMP and the multi-life offerings at Penn Mutual?
Sure. So it's absolutely a key to start with, your regional person, your managing director. But we have resources here and it's a very collaborative environment. This type of business, you need multiple perspectives to shape a case and make sure that you're going to have success. So your team, you have Bruce Gilmet on your team that is a fantastic resource to be tapped into for case questions, design questions, etc. Our multi-life director is another person that everybody will be able to utilize. And frankly, I want to make my team accessible for questions, how things work, consultation. And so I have a couple of underwriters specific to multi-life, GI, SI, that are great resources. So that RVP or managing principal can pull any or all of us in for a conversation as needed. So I feel like we're well resourced to support, those questions that come in.
Terrific. And by the way, I think that we can officially announce on this podcast that director of multi-life sales will be Mark Jones, who many people know from the industry. He's been around for a long time, has a lot of experience with executive benefits plans. So he will be available to help with these cases, both from kind of a positioning standpoint, a case design standpoint, and so forth. So a terrific resource for people out there. All right, Jennifer, last question. So you live in Vikings country, aka Minnesota. We have a lot of great Penn Mutualists that live in Minnesota, including Advanced Sales, Jedi Master of Estate Planning, Amy Bryant, who lives in the St. Paul area. I've been there a number of times. It's a wonderful state, wonderful city, Minneapolis. Love being there. But, the winters are a little chilly. Do you ever go outside your house in that kind of January, February timeframe? And if so, why? Why do you do that to yourself?
It's a question I get asked a lot. I've been asked this my whole adult life. Why? Why with the cold? Minnesota is a great place to live. There's about 25 of us from Penn Mutual that live in the general area. It's cold in the winter, but Minnesota in particular is a very active culture. People are outside, they're walking, they're skiing, they're biking, they're doing lots of things that you would do in the summer and, getting together with friends, etc. And it's a really vibrant place in the winter. So don't be fooled. Don't fly over. Take a trip here and see for yourself.
I will say that one time I was in Minneapolis it was either January or February, and was staying at a Marriott by the airport. And to enter the Marriott, I had to walk through a path that was carved through a 7-foot tall snowbank to get to the front door of the hotel. So yeah, a lot of snow, a lot of cold, but it's a great place. I agree. I really do enjoy every time I get to go there. So shout out to the people in Minnesota. I'm sorry my Rams destroyed you in the playoffs last year, but that's just the breaks.
We do it every year. So better luck next time, Vikings.
All right. Well, again, Jennifer, thanks so much for being here today. I'm excited about AMP. I'm sure that our listeners are excited about it. And I look forward to seeing all the success we have with the program here throughout 2025 and into 2026 and beyond.
Yes. Cheers to that.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.